Good day, everyone. I am Sherilyn Abidin, and together with my groupmates, we'll be discussing plant organs and processes. First, let me introduce you to my team, which consists of Renaida Edzla, Eliza Abubakar, Kate Winslet Bazadre, Norlin Silongan, and Raida Mustafa, Nurhaya Talib, and Baimon Shanga. Now, let us begin with our discussion. Look around us. Among those things that your eyes could first see are the greens and that seem to greet and say hi to you, swaying when the wind blows, still when the presence of wind is nowhere. They are beautiful to look at, much pleasing in the eyes, and some of them even have flowers, which most of us love, the plants. To better understand our topic, let us first define plants. Although we already have ideas what it is as we've been discussing it in our science classes, let us recall what we know and discover what we do not. Plant, which belongs to kingdom Plantae, as defined by Rodwell and Woodwell in 2024, cited in Encyclopedia Britannica, is any multicellular eukaryotic life form characterized by first photosynthetic nutrition. This characteristic is very common to us because whenever we hear the word plant, sometimes the first thing that we could think about is photosynthesis. Or if we say photosynthesis, it would instantly occur to us about plants. I'll just read what is written here since I'll be having an in-depth discussion about this later when we will talk about leaves. So this is a characteristic possessed by all plants except some parasitic plants and underground orchids. This is a process in which chemical energy is produced from water, minerals, and carbon dioxide with the aid of pigments and the radiant energy of the sun. Second, essentially unlimited growth in localized regions. This just means that plants have the ability to grow essentially unlimitedly in localized regions. Plant growth could be defined as the increasing of plant volume and or mass with or without the formation of new structures such as organs, tissues, cells, or cell organelles. This characteristic shows that plants have an indeterminate growth pattern and are able to grow and produce new cells during their entire lifespan. In the study of Brikin and Morozova, they added that to some extent this could be considered immortal as they are able to reproduce in both vegetative and generative ways. I assume that you're familiar with this too because you might have included vegetative in our assignment about asexual reproduction, or you have taken notes when ma'am shared with us that there are plants that also perform sexual reproduction. When we say vegetative reproduction, it is when a new plant grows from a fragment of the parent plant or grows from a specialized reproductive structure, such as the stolon, rhizome, tuber, corm, or bulb. While generative reproduction occurs during flowering when fertilization takes place, followed by the sowing and rearing of seeds. An example of this process is the reproduction of Hibiscus rosa sinensis, or what we know as gumamela. It reproduces sexually through a process called pollination, which involves the transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma of a flower. Another reason why this is included in the characteristic of plants is because in multicellular plants, there are distinct zones where cell division occurs called meristems. Does it ring a bell to you? Dapat lang kasi natapos na natin yan i-discuss doon sa tissue. So if you could remember it, siya yung tissue na responsible sa growth ng plants. These cells hold the unique property of totipotency or the ability of a cell to divide and produce all cell types of a growing organism. Sabi gani for as long as ang meristems ay nag-exist pa sa plants, mag-grow at mag-grow siya. So for instance, if you just mow the lawns, they will still grow, but if you pluck its root out, maaring hindi na. Next, plant cells contain cellulose in their walls and are therefore to some extent rigid. This is one of its characteristics because cellulose is usually associated with plants, although it is also present in some algae, fungi, and bacteria. However, animals and humans do not have it. Next, the absence of organs of locomotion, resulting in a more or less stationary existence. Sabi nga ni ma'am, plants are immobile. They don't have the ability to move from one place to another. As a result, their parts are designed for them to protect themselves for the environment they have. For instance, plant cells have a cell wall to protect the plants, which is an organelle that is absent in animal cells. Lastly, the absence of nervous systems. Unlike us, plants don't have nervous systems, but plants have their own ways of responding and changing their environment. So, for instance, there are plants that gradually move their leaves during the day. tracking the motion of the sun. So I've read somewhere that sunflowers tend to follow the sun. Sa morning, they would face the east, tapos susundan na nila ang motion ng sun, which is a process called heliotropism. There are also plants with tendrils that respond over a few hours to having been touched and will wrap around the thing that touched them. Every living organism that exists entails significance in the biodiversity. The coexistence of everyone meets the equilibrium that an ecosystem must have. Plants are among those organisms that are the most essential living organisms on Earth, having been significantly contributing to environmental processes there are. Lahat na nandito sa mundo hindi lang nag-i-exist just because they have to exist without exact purposes. That's the same with how I tend to say that every one of us has purpose in life. Whether we're here because someone needs us, or you light someone's life up by mere existing, or somewhere down the road at a specific time you will stumble upon a circumstance that who knows how it would affect your life and the world even. With this, it is also the same with the things around us. Even the smallest of all things, the insects, dust, the cells and atoms are all here because of a purpose and of significance. How essential plants are lies in how immensely beneficial they are to both humans and animals. For instance, we all know that in human bodies, food from plants and animals is digested into basic and usable forms. We eat food, our teeth would break it into smaller pieces, we would swallow it, and it would then be digested. However, in plants, on the other hand, they use the sun's light energy to produce their own food through the photosynthesis process. After ma-break na plants ang food na iyon, of course they have the nutrients. Some animals and even humans rely on plants for their food consumptions. Nakaka-benefit tayo from them sa food na kinakain natin at sa nutrient and energy na nakukuha rito. Another example, trees are of big help din sa atin because they provide shelter for animals and even sa atin na humans because our housing materials tend to be made of wood and because trees are known for their medicinal uses. And I think one of the most important benefits we could ever get from plants aside from being food sources is being our supplier for oxygen. Imagine what will happen if there are no plants on Earth. Surely there will be no oxygen to respire, there will be no food, and the temperature will also rise. If wala ang lahat ng ito, it is impossible we would ever survive. These are just a few of the things that plants provide to organisms, which prove that indeed plants are the sources of food and oxygen and which maintain the ecological balance. As Fernando in 2012 stated, without plants, life would not be sustained on Earth. People depend upon plants to satisfy their basic human needs such as food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. Overall, plants consist of various parts such as the roots, stems, leaves, and flowers, and each of these has a different role to perform. To better understand each of these, let us all listen to Renaida Adzla as she introduces us to one of the parts of plants, the roots.
Good morning, everyone. I am Renaida Edzla, here to present to you the fascinating world of roots. So, while we often see roots as just the part of the plant buried in soil, they actually play many essential roles that allow plants to survive, adapt, and thrive in various environments. So, a root is a part of a plant that is usually underground. So, the root is one of the most essential of part of a plant. Usually, it grows underground, providing stability and absorbing nutrients and water para maging healthy ang isang halaman. So, ang roots, ito yung parang anchor. Kumbaga sila yung nag-hold ng halaman sa lupa. So basically, kung walang ugat, hindi tatayo ng maayos ang halaman at hindi rin nito makukuha ang essential water and minerals from the ground. Pero, hindi lahat ng ugat ay nasa ilalim ng lupa. Some plants have aerial roots. Ito yung mga ugat na tumutubo above the ground. So these roots are often found in tropical plants gaya ng orchids and banyan trees. Ang aerial roots, ito yung tumutulong sa mga halaman to absorb moisture from the air. and attach it to surfaces or even provide extra support. So in the case of climbing plants naman, yung aerial roots, it helps them cling to walls or rocks. Habang yung mga mangroves naman ay ginagamit nila yung aerial roots to breathe in muddy or waterlogged environments. So now, let's discuss the regions of the roots. Okay, so roots have a complex internal structure divided into specific regions, each with distinct functions that support growth, protection, and absorption. So these regions, the root cup, meristematic region, elongation region, and maturation region, each play a crucial role in the root's development, enabling the plant to anchor itself, grow, and absorb nutrients effectively. So the first region of the root is the root cap. So it protects the root. So the root cap is a protective structure located at the very tip of the root. It plays a key role in protecting the delicate tissues at the growing end of the root. So it is composed of composed of layers of specialized cells that continuously shed and regenerate as the root pushes through the soil. So the outer cells of the root cup secrete a slimy substance called the mucilage. So, ito yung nagpapadulas sa dulo ng ugat and nagbabawas siya ng friction with soil particles, making it easier for the root to move through the soil. So the root cup shields the meristematic region behind it from mechanical injury as the root penetrates the soil. So kapag may namimit na obstacles yung ugat, such as rocks or masikip na lupa, sinisip-sip ng root cup yung pressure para protektahan yung mga tumutubo na cells sa meristematic region. So the root cup also plays an essential role in sensing gravity, helping roots grow downward in response to gravitational pull. So the second region is the region of meristematic tissue. So it is the site of cell division wherein kumbaga the cell divide in this region. So the meristematic region, also known as the apical meristem, is located just behind the root cup. So this region contains undifferentiated cells that are actively dividing, contributing to the root's growth. So cells in the meristematic region are small, thin-walled, and they are tightly packed. Sila yung may mataas na rate ng mitotic cell division, meaning that cells are constantly multiplying to produce new cells. So these new cells, they contribute to root growth both in length and in tissue development. So the continuous division of cells sa meristematic region is the primary source of new cells for the root, pushing older cells forward into the elongation region para umabot sa mas malalim na part pa ng lupa yung mga ugat. So this division also ensures a steady supply of cells that differentiate into specialized tissue for future root function. So the meristematic region's activity is important for the plant's ability to explore the soil for water and nutrients. So by constantly producing new cells, yung region na ito, it enables the root to respond quickly to favorable soil conditions and access resources more efficiently. The third region is the region of elongation, the area of root lengthening. So the region of elongation is located just above the meristematic region. So the region of cells in this region, the elongation of cells in this region contributes significantly to root growth. Kung sa meristematic region, dito kine-create yung mga cells. Sa elongation region naman, it focuses on increasing the size of cells. So, hindi nagde-divide here ang cells, but instead, it is expanding in length. So, yung paghabang ito yung nagtutulak sa root cap at meristematic region para umabot pa sa mas malalim na part ng lupa where it can access additional water and nutrients. So, as cells move through the elongation region, they begin to undergo initial stages of differentiation. Kapag hindi pa fully mature yung mga cells, nagsisimula silang bumuo ng mga characteristics that are needed for their future roles in different tissues of the root, preparing to become specialized cells in the maturation region. And finally, the fourth and the last region is the region of maturation. So here it have root hairs and it is the mature part of the root. So the region of maturation, also known as the differentiation zone, is located above the elongation region. So this is where cells fully mature and develop into specialized cells that serve various functions within the cells. So, which are yung mga cells na yun, yung epidermal cells, the cortical cells, endodermal cells, and also the vascular cells. So, one of the most notable features of the maturation region is the presence of the root hairs. So, which are the tiny hair-like extensions of the root's epidermal cells. So, malaki yung nadaragdag ng root hair sa surface area ng ugat, allowing for more efficient absorption of water and minerals from the sun. So the maturation region is the primary area where the root absorbs water and nutrients. So the fully developed root hairs enhance the root's ability to interact with soil particles, maximizing nutrient and water uptake. Then, yung xylem and phloem ang nagdadala ng mga ito pataas para suportahan yung growth and metabolic activities ng entire plant. So, by the time that cells reach the maturation region, ganap na silang developed and magfa-function na sila sa kani-kanilang roles. So this region represents the mature portion of the root where all the essential processes of absorption, the storage, and transport occur to sustain the plant. But so ngayon, what will happen if the root hairs are damaged? So if the root hairs are damaged, as seen here in root B, the plant's ability to absorb water and minerals is significantly reduced. So this can lead to decreased growth and even drought stress if the plants cannot take up enough water to support its need. So particularly, root hairs play a significant role in absorption to help in growth and development of the plant. So that's all for my part. But again, this is Renaida Edslan. Thank you for watching.
Plant roots are essential for anchoring, absorbing water, and taking in nutrients, all of which supports growth and survival. Each root's part, such as the root cap, root's hair, and vascular tissues, has a unique role that helps plants stay stable and healthy. First, we have anchorage. Basically, roots anchor the plant firmly into the soil, giving it a stable base. Like, imagine a tree na nasa middle ng open field, tapos sobrang lakas ng wind. Pero the tree doesn't fall over because of its strong roots. These roots hold it down, helping helping it withstand different weather conditions like storm and strong winds. This anchoring function is especially important for large plants or trees like mango trees or acacia trees. Kasi kung wala ito, madali silang matutumba or matatangay ng hangin or ulan. Even smaller plants rely on anchorage para hindi basta-bastang natutumba like herbs and shrubs na madali nating makikita sa garden. So next, we have absorption. Roots absorb essential resource mainly, water and minerals from the soil. Ang process na ito is crucial because plants need this resource to survive and grow properly. Imagine walang tubig or nutrients ang roots na pinupunta sa leaves yung plant. So yung plant will just either die. Roots have roots hair, like tiny hair like structure na nag-i-increase na surface area para mas maraming water and minerals ang na-absorbs. This is why plants like rice and corn have super extensive roots system. Kailangan nilang mag-absorb ng maraming water for photosynthesis para makaproduce ng food at lumaki ng mabilis. Third, we have conduction. So, kapag na-absorb na ng water and minerals, roots use specialized tissue called xylem and phloem to transport them to the rest of the plant. Think of these tissues as parang highway ng plant. Xylem transport water and minerals from the roots up to the stem and leaves, while phloem carries nutrients, mostly sugars, nagawa sa photosynthesis back down to other parts of the plant. So parang constant flow siya. Water and minerals go up, sugars go down sa malaking trees like coconut trees. This process is super important kasi ang daming parts na kailangan makareceive ng nutrients and water para mag-thrive sila. So fourth, storage. Roots also act as storage units for foods and nutrients, especially carbohydrates. Think about plants like carrots, sweet potatoes, and radishes. These are actually roots full of stored energy. Ang mga carbohydrates na ini-store nila are used during times when the plant can't perform photosynthesis. Like in winter or dry seasons, imagine a plant in a cold climate without this storage capacity, it wouldn't survive. Ang energy na naipon sa roots is what the plant will use para mag-grow ulit and mas favorable na yung conditions. So fifth, hormone production. Roots don't just absorb nutrients, they also produce important hormones that help the plant grow and develop properly. Two examples are cytokinins and gibberellins. Cytokinins help promote cell division, so super important sila sa growth ng plant tissues. Gibberellins, I don't know how to pronounce this. On the other hand, stimulate stem elongation and seed germination. Think of these hormones as the plant's natural growth and boosters or command centers. Without these hormones, the plant wouldn't grow properly. So roots are kinda low-key controlling the growth process ng buong plant. Parang backstage managers. So last is symbiotic relationship. Roots also form symbiotic relationship with certain fungi and bacteria like mycorrhizae. It's like they have a mutualistic partnership. Yung fungi or bacteria help the plant by increasing nutrient absorption, especially phosphorus. In exchange for food from the plant, super beneficial ito kasi phosphorus is hard to come by and it's essential for plant's growth. Mycorrhizae also protect the plant from soil pathogens parang bodyguards ng roots. So, example ng plant with this symbiosis is pine trees, which heavily rely on mycorrhizae for better nutrients uptake and to survive in nutrient-poor soils. And that's all for my part. Thank you. Bye-bye.
What are stems? In line with this botany series of topic, we're gonna talking about another plant part, stems. This is Kate Winslet Nambong Basadre, and I'm going to share to you this educational topic about stems. Now, let's get started. Earlier, we know what is roots, its organs, process, as well as functions and importance. Now, let's move on up to the stems. It is important to note that not all plants have stems. Vascular plants have stems, whereas non-vascular plants do not. So what is this vascular plant and non-vascular plant? So in Kingdom Plantae, we have what we call its specific name, bryophytes for non-vascular plant and tracheophytes for vascular plants. For vascular plant, it has a tubes, and if you take a look on our previous discussion, we have two types of tubes, that is xylem and phloem. A tube that carries food is phloem, while tube that carries water and nutrients is xylem. For instance, we have trees, grass, flowers, and ferns. For non-vascular plant, it is the plants that don't have vascular tubes. Therefore, this kind of plants don't carry its material to tubes. Usually, they are small and are found in damp and moist areas. Their nutrients comes from one cell to another cell. Their examples are liverworts, horns, and moss or mosses. Alright, let's get back to our topic.
What are stems? Stems are the ascending part of the plant bearing branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. It helps the plant to stand firm. A stem also carries water, minerals, and food prepared by the leaves to the different parts of the plant. There are the small tubes inside the stem that help it to carry their things to the different parts of the plant, like what I actually discussed. Some stems like potato, onion, ginger, and garlic grow under the ground. Such stems store food for the plant. The sugar cane that we eat is actually the stem of the plant.
Now, there is actually three main functions of the stem. First, we have stems support the structure of the plant. Of course, stem needs supports, or stem needs the physical structure for it. It also supports leaves and the buds of the plant. The buds is the undeveloped flower or leaf that is located on the apical part of our meristem's tissue. Second, we have stems provide structure for the vascular system of the plant. This system moves the minerals, the nutrients, the water, the food, and all around the plant needed. And for the last, third, in some cases, some stems also store carbohydrates. They store carbohydrates in an energy source which is available to be used later in the plant's growth. Let me give you some trivia quickly. Do you know that the tallest tree in the world is over 380 feet or in 116 meters tall? It is located in the Coastal Redwood National Park in California. Did you know or did you guess it? Yes, it is the Hyperion. Hyperion is the tallest tree that is like a Lycomsachia, or the tallest statue, or the third tallest statue in the world, that is located in Myanmar. Experts says that it could gain height every year, but its body parts are being eaten by the species above. And that's it. Different type of stems. Different type of stem is the stems are arguably one of the most diverse parts of the plants between different species. There's short, long, and hard stems that extremely flexible stems. Now we know what stems do for plants, but what are the different types of stems? If we take a look at the stem in the broadest sense, there is actually two main types of stem, woody and herbaceous. Woody stems are the hard, rigid stems that covered in bark. And these woody stems are found in perennial plants that grow taller and wider each year. Herbaceous stems are generally green and more flexible and soft plants. These herbaceous plants are smaller, usually don't live as long as woody plants.
Now, let's take a look closer at this stem. The stem is an organ consisting of an alternating system of nodes. The point where leaves are attached and internodes, the stem segments between the nodes. The structure, regardless of height or girth, forms a shoot system, where the stem is a foundational element from which branches, leaves, and flowers grow. Stems grow vertically, making plants taller, and horizontally, providing plants with increased girth. Regardless of thickness, all stems have a basic structure for the transportation of water and SAP, called a vascular column or bundle.
What makes a stem? It makes a sclerenchyma cells, a collenchyma cells, and a parenchyma cells.
In a herbaceous plant, such as dandelion, which doesn't have a woody stem above the ground, the stem that develops in the shoot system does not grow much thicker over time. And for woody plant, it grows and increases every year. Just what our instructor told to us, we know if the tree is old enough based on its ring.
Within the stem ground tissue for support, vascular tissue for transport of water, and dermal tissue for support.
Cross-section of plant stems. Initially, plant begins with a slender shoot containing a vascular column. Within the column lies a pit. Pit composed of spongy parenchyma cells which is stored and transport nutrients through the plant.
Cuticle, which is secreted from epidermal cells, helps to prevent water loss, also to prevent invasive infection from attacking the plant. Stoma, plural for stomata. It is a small opening mostly found on the undersides of the leaves that allows for gas exchange between the plant and the external environment. And last, we have trichome. Trichome, it is also added layer for protection. Hair-like outgrowths on the plant shoot that functions to differ herbivores. The functions of trichome are to reduce evaporation from plant surfaces, reflect sunlight's energy, and may contain toxins to protect plant from herbivores. Alright, that's the end of my topic. We are bound next to the importance of the stem. This is Kate Winslet and Basadra, and I hope you gain a lot of learning about what are stems. Thanks for listening and see you on the next video. Good luck!
Good morning everyone, Noralyn Silogan here, sharing information about importance of stems. Since the stem is the aerial part of the plant that supports other aerial organs like leaves, flowers, fruits, and seeds, let's start with the questions, why are plant stems important? Stems here, or the plant stems, also perform a wide range of functions that have enabled various plant species to survive in different habitats, just like what Ms. Basadre discussed earlier. The stems are a vital part of the plants that performs many important functions, including support, transportation, storage, photosynthesis, attachment, and access to sunlight. Stems have a number of defensive properties to help protect a plant from infection and being eaten by insects, birds, and mammals. So let's discuss it one by one to further understand this topic. Let's start with the support role. The stem plays a crucial role in supporting plants' leaves, flowers, and fruits. When I say supporting the plant's leaves, flowers, and fruits, that is very correct because it serves as the plant's central support structure, enabling it to stand upright and reach towards sunlight for photosynthesis. What do I mean by that? Support for leaves, like for example here in a sunflower, the thick and sturdy stem supports the large, broad leaves here. So, kung na-experience niyo nang humawak ng tangkay ng sunflower, kung mapapansin niyo, matigas siya, which is yung stem ang tumutulong sa pagkalat ng mga dahon upang mapakinabangan ng photosynthesis, which is the process of food making. And also, yung stem yung humahawak sa mga dahon sa isang pinakamainam na posisyon para makakuha ng sunlight at gas exchange. Pag sinabi natin gas exchange, ito na yung nililipat ng mga halaman and carbon dioxide ang oxygen sa loob at labas ng kanilang mga dahon. Since the stem of a sunflower here grows tall and sturdy, supporting the leaves in a position that allows them to maximize their exposure to sunlight. Without a strong stem, the leaves would not be able to maintain an optimal orientation for photosynthesis, resulting in reduced energy production. Now let's proceed to the next example, which is the support for flowers. So in a rose plant, the flower is supported by a long thin stem called the peduncle, and the stem holds the flower in an elevated position, making it more visible to pollinators like bees, butterflies, and birds. So the stem also supports the flower as it grows and eventually blooms, ensuring it is well positioned for pollination. So when we say pollination in plants, ito na yung proseso kung saan yung pollen ay inililipat mula sa male part ng isang bulaklak patungo sa female part na nagbibigay daan sa bulaklak na makabuo ng mga buto at prutas, which is yung mga animal pollinator. Yun yung tumutulong like bees, butterflies, and birds. Lastly, support for fruits. So the last example that we have is the tomato plant. So the stem here supports the developing fruits. As we observe, habang lumalaki yung mga bunga ng kamatis, pinipigilan sila ng stem na mahulog mula sa lupa, na nakakatulong para maiwasan na masira at the same time yung prutas lumalaki ng mas maayos at malaya. So kung mapapansin natin, yung kamatis pag lumakit hinog na, bumibigat, 'di ba? So yung stem, ang role ng stem dito, nagbibigay sila ng structural support upang yung kamatis ay hindi mahulog at masira. Next is transportation. The stem transport water and nutrients from the roots to the leaves and sugars from the leaves to the rest of the plant. Example here is yung sunflower again. So yung stem ng sunflower dito ay nagsisilbing tubo para sa transportation ng water, nutrients at yung sugar sa buong halaman. So tinitiyak ng stem na ang mga dahon, bulaklak at prutas ay natatanggap ang mga kinakailangang resources for growth and development. So, kaya dito, ang stem ay naglalaman ng vascular tissue, which is yung xylem at phloem, na nagdadala ng water, nutrients, at yung sugar sa pagitan ng mga ugat, dahon, bulaklak, at prutas. Just to give you a brief summary of water, nutrients, and sugar transport, water and nutrients, xylem is the responsible. Water and minerals are absorbed by the roots and transported through the xylem to all parts of the plant, driven by transpiration and cohesion or adhesion forces. So next is the sugar. So the responsible here is the phloem. Sugar here produced in the leaves during photosynthesis are transported. So the combined function of xylem and phloem ensures that the plant can maintain proper hydration, acquire essential nutrients, and distribute the sugars needed for energy and growth. So this system is critical for the plant's overall health and survival. The stem of a plant not only supports leaves, flowers, and fruits, but can also serve as a storage organ for food and water. Stems can store food, primarily in the form of starch, sugars, and sometimes other carbohydrates. So these are stored as reserves for when the plant needs energy, such as during period of dormancy, regrowth, or reproduction. So this ability is particularly important for plants in environments where water or nutrients may be temporarily scarce, or for plants that needs to store energy for future growth or reproduction. So the way stems store food and water varies between plant species, and the stem may be modified in different ways to perform this function. For food storage, in some plants like potato stems store carbohydrates as an energy reserve such as starch or sugars. So this stored food can be utilized during times when the plant needs energy for growth, flowering, or sprouting new shoots. For water storage, on the other hand, in plants like cacti, the stem is modified to store large quantities of water. So this helps the plant survive in arid or drought-prone environments by providing a reserve of moisture that can be used during dry seasons or dry periods. Thus, the stem plays a vital role not only in supporting the plants and next is photosynthesis. Green stems can produce food through photosynthesis. Ito lang siguro yung matandaan ko nung high school ako, since old curriculum ko is yung word na photosynthesis, which is the process of food making. So while the leaves are typically the primary organs responsible for photosynthesis in most plants, some plants also use their stems to carry out photosynthesis, especially in environments where leaves may be reduced or absent. So this ability allows plants to continue producing energy even when their leaves cannot fully perform the process. How the stem photosynthesizes. Maaaring mag-photosynthesize ang stem dahil naglalaman ito ng chlorophyll, yung green pigment that captures light energy, and yung chloroplast naman, ito yung organelles na responsible for photosynthesis. So, matatagpo nito sa mga stem cells, lalo na sa ilang mga halaman na may green stems. Ang proseso ng photosynthesis sa stem ay sumusunod sa parehong mga pangunahing hakbang tulad ng sa mga dahon na may light absorption, carbon dioxide intake, and water transport, and also photosynthesis reaction na i-discuss sa part ng leaves ng next reporter. So going back, we have examples here of stems that photosynthesize. Number 1 is cacti, especially the saguaro cactus and other types of cacti. So in cacti, the stem is the primary organ for photosynthesis because their leaves have evolved into spines to reduce water loss. So the thick, fleshy stem of the cactus contains chlorophyll and carries out photosynthesis. The stem's ability to photosynthesize is crucial for its survival in dry environments where leaves are often reduced or absent to conserve water. Next is kalanchoe. The kalanchoe here is often grown as an ornamental succulent. Kalanchoe has thick, fleshy stems that stores water and can also perform photosynthesis. These plants have chloroplast in their stem tissues, allowing the stem to carry out some photosynthesis, especially when the leaves are small or absent. So, the stems of kalanchoe here is typically green and can absorb light to produce energy for the plant. Next is Virginia creeper. For example, in the Virginia creeper, yung sa bahay ng mga Amerikano or mayayaman, di ba madalas nakikita natin yan sa mga wall or pader nila? So, the stem contains chloroplast and helps the plant produce energy when light is limited or when the leaves are not fully developed. In potato plant, this is a special case since it has two stems, the aerial stems, the stems above the ground, and the tubers, which is the underground stems. So, while the tubers of the potato plant store food, the above ground stems can also carry out photosynthesis. And these stems have chloroplast and produce energy for the plant, which is then used for growth, and the development of the tubers. However, the majority of photosynthesis in a potato plant takes place in the leaves, with the stem playing a secondary role. While leaves are the main photosynthetic organs in most plants, some plants also use their stems for photosynthesis. This adaptation is especially important in environments where leaves are reduced or absent, or in plants that need to maximize their energy production in challenging conditions. Cacti, succulent plants like kalanchoe, and certain green stems vines like the Virginia creeper rely on their stems to carry out photosynthesis, contributing to their survival and growth. So these stems typically have chlorophyll and specialized structures to capture sunlight and convert it into chemical energy. Attachment. The stem provides a place for other plant parts to attach, such as leaves, flowers, buds, and fruits. The stem provides a structural framework for a plant, allowing essential parts like leaves, flowers, buds, and fruits to attach and grow. This attachment plays a crucial role in the plant's ability to capture sunlight for photosynthesis, reproduce also, and bear fruit. Attachment of leaves. Like for example again the sunflower. The petiole attaches the leaf to the stem, and these stems allows the leaf to extend outward, maximizing its exposure to sunlight for photosynthesis. The stem provides the leaf without mechanical support, keeping it upright and in the right position. Without the stem, leaves wouldn't be able to stay in place or orient properly to capture light. Attachment of buds. Buds are found on the stem and can develop into new shoots, leaves, flowers, or branches. The stem provides a site for the attachment of terminal buds at the tip of the stem and the lateral buds on the side of the stem. So these buds are vital for growth and development, as they can sprout new parts of the plant. For example, here, the lateral buds on an apple tree can form new branches leading to the expansion of the tree. The stem acts as a support structure for these buds, ensuring they remain attached until they begin to grow. Attachment of fruits. Example is the tomato plant again. The pedicel, which is a small stem-like structure, attaches the fruit to the plant. So, in a tomato plant, the tomato here develops from a flower and is attached to the main stem via the pedicel, which is the stem supports the growing fruit, providing it with nutrients and water through the vascular system. And also, the strength and flexibility of the stem allows the fruit to remain attached as it grows and ripens. The stem serves as the central support structure for a plant, providing a place for the attachment of vital plant parts like leaves, flowers, buds, and fruits. The stem also ensures that these parts are positioned correctly to perform their functions such as photosynthesis, reproduction, and nutrient storage. By connecting these parts to the vascular system, the stem also facilitates the movement of water, nutrients, and sugar, supporting the overall health and growth of the plant. The stem serves as the central support structure for a plant, providing a place for the attachment of vital plant parts like leaves, flowers, buds, and fruits. The stem also ensures that these parts are positioned correctly to perform their functions such as photosynthesis, reproduction, and nutrient storage. By connecting these parts to the vascular system, the stem also facilitates the movement of water, nutrients, and sugar, supporting the overall health and growth of the plant. The last important role that we have is the access to sunlight. The stem allows the plant to access sunlight for photosynthesis. In some plants, the stem itself can even contribute to sunlight exposure through specialized adaptations. Here's how the stem facilitates access to sunlight along with the examples. Supporting leaves for optimal sunlight exposure. So, in a typical plant like the sunflower, the stem supports the leaves and positions them in a way that maximizes exposure to sunlight. The petiole or the left stem connects the leaf to the main stream and often allows the leaf to orient itself at an angle that maximizes light capture. So the stem here, the stem itself grows tall and straight, helping the plant's leaves stay above the surrounding vegetation to avoid shedding. The longer the stem, the better the leaves can spread out and get sunlight, which is crucial for photosynthesis. Stem elongation or phototropism. Many plants, especially vines or plants with weak stems, exhibit a phenomenon called phototropism, where the stem grows in response to light. In phototropic plants, the stem elongates towards the direction of the light source, and this allows the plant to grow taller or in a direction where light's availability is maximized. The stem's ability to respond to light helps the plant gain better access to sunlight over time, especially in crowded or shaded environments. So here, the example that we have is bean. So when a bean plant is grown in a shaded area, its stem will elongate towards the sunlight, allowing the leaves to get better exposure to light and thereby improve photosynthesis. Next is support for flowers and fruit to access sunlight. In tomato plant, the stem is not only supports the leaves but also supports the flower and fruits of the plant. So in tomato plants, the stem elevates the flowers above the leaves so that they are visible to pollinators. As the fruits develop, the stem ensures that they remain exposed to sunlight, which is important for processes like ripening. So even though the leaves are the primary site for photosynthesis, access to sunlight for flowers and fruits is necessary for optimal pollination and fruit development. Stems as photosynthetic structures, like for example the cacti. In certain plants, particularly succulents and cacti, the stem itself is modified to photosynthesize, especially in environment where leaves are reduced or absent to conserve water. In cacti, the stem is thick, fleshy, and green, containing chlorophyll, which allows the stem to capture sunlight and perform photosynthesis. The stem has evolved to store water and carry out photosynthesis, making it the primary organ for energy production in the plant, particularly in the desert where water is scarce and leaves are minimized or absent. To top it off, the stem of a plant is a crucial organ that plays multiple interconnected roles vital for the plant's survival, growth, and reproduction. Thus, the stem is not only a physical support structure, but also a vital channel for the plant's physiological processes. And its ability to adapt and perform diverse functions highlights its importance in the overall life cycle of the plant. And that ends my report. Thank you for listening. If you guys have questions or confusion, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you. We can now proceed to the next reporter. Have a great day. Bye.
Good day, everyone. This is Anraida Mustafa, and together with Cheryl Ann Abidin, we'll discuss with you about the leaves. We all know that leaves are vital to life on Earth because they produce food and oxygen to us, humans, and animals. One of the most important parts of the plants are the leaves, and they are also referred to as kitchen of plant. Why is that? It's because it is where a process called photosynthesis takes place. What is photosynthesis? It's the process by which green plants, algae, and some bacteria use sunlight to synthesize food from carbon dioxide and water. Sa madaling salita, it's how plants make their own food and leaves plays an important role sa process na yon. Ang mga leaves ang tumatanggap ng water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide for the plant to release oxygen into the air, which is kailangan natin to breathe. See how important leaves can be? Now, let's talk about the structure of a leaf. A leaf is a thin, usually green part of a plant that grows from the stem at points known as nodes. Leaves are typically broad and flat, and that makes sense. May reason yon at hindi lang for decoration. Kaya ganon kasi para mas effective nilang ma-receive ang sunlight. That's important sa role nila as the main site of photosynthesis. I've mentioned earlier that photosynthesis is the process by which plants convert sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into food and energy. One of the characteristics of the plants is that they have little pores or opening called stomata. It helps para makapasok yung gas like carbon dioxide and oxygen na nire-release ng plant. The leaves, they grown in a specific arrangement on the plant to maximize sunlight exposure and space. Sa shoot apical meristems, which we have discussed in our previous lesson, one of the meristems and tissues sa plants, doon galing yung mga bagong dahon. It's located at the top of the plants. The leaves also, they don't just provide food and oxygen, they also help sa pagkontrol ng water loss sa plants. They manage temperature and they also protect itself from environmental challenges. For instance, kapag sobrang mainit, yung mga stomata, pwede sila mag-close para ma-prevent yung pagkawala ng water. And let's take note that leaves isn't just a simple part of the plant. They play a vital role, and that's why they are referred as the one of the most important part ng plant.
Now, let's break down the parts of a leaf and see how they work together to help the plant stay alive. Imagine the leaf as a tiny food factory, capturing sunlight and turn it into food through photosynthesis. The leaf has three main parts and let's go over each one. We have first the leaf base. It is where the leaf connects to the stem. You can think of it like the hinge sa door. It holds the leaf in place so it stays attached to the plant securely. Some plants like rice or wheat have a leaf-based wraps around the stem which can be compared sa cozy blanket, giving support and stability. Just like how a blanket keeps you warm. Meron ding mga plants like sa legumes, sa beans and peas na may pulvinous sa leaf base. Parang joint na siya kaya pwede mag-move yung leaf up or down. It's like when you bend your elbow in. The leaf can change its position to get more light or to protect itself. Plus, some leaves have stipules on the sides of the base, which are like little shields, and they add extra protection sa leaf. The next one, we have the petiole, or yung stalk na nagko-connect ng leaf blade, yung flat part ng leaf, ng stem. Parang handle siya ng spoon kasi siya yung nag-aalaw sa leaf na mag-stretch out and reach the sunlight. It also lets the leaf move so it can sway with the wind. Kapag gumalaw yung leaves, it helps them stay cool and get fresh air, which is good kasi that air brings carbon dioxide na ginagamit ng plants para gumawa ng food. Some plants meron silang long petioles, kaya parang kite sila na gumagalaw sa hangin. And this movement helps the leaf stay fresh and cool. Plus, it helps it breathe in more carbon dioxide which the plant needs for photosynthesis. We have here the last one, the lamina. Lamina, it is a big, flat, green part of the leaf. Dito nangyayari yung most of the photosynthesis. You can think of it as a solar panel. It's designed to soak up as much sunlight possible to power the plant. Yung lamina, meron ding midrib, which is yung midrib, siya yung main vein. It runs down the center. Parang backbone siya ng leaf, dividing the leaf into two halves, just like how our spine divides our body. From this midrib, smaller veins branch out like roads on the map, and these veins are really important because they do two things. First, they give structure to the leaf so it's strong and won't easily tear. Second, they carry water and nutrients all over the leaf. Parang blood vessels sa katawan natin. They bring all the vital stuff to keep the leaf alive and healthy. Now, let's talk about venation. Venation, it is basically the arrangement of veins and veinlets in a leaf. Think of veins like roads. They transport water, nutrients, and food throughout the leaf. They also provide the structure and shape of the leaf, helping it spread out to catch sunlight efficiently. There are two main types of venation. We have the reticulate venation and the parallel venation. These two differ depending on how the veins are arranged. Let's first talk about reticulate venation. This is when the vein form a network, kind of like a web or net. You'll usually find this in dicot plants like roses. Think of it as similar to the branches of a tree or a spider web. Reticulate venation has two types, the pinnate reticulate venation and the palmate reticulate venation. Pinnate reticulate venation, in this type, there's just one main vein or midrib running down the middle of the leaf with smaller veins branching out. For example is the mango leaves. Picture a straight highway in the middle or the main vein with smaller roads branching out on the sides. That's how a pinnate reticulate venation looks like. And the next one is the palmate reticulate venation. Here, there are multiple main veins that all start from a single point at the base of the leaf. It's further divided into two types, the convergent palmate reticulation and the divergent palmate reticulation. Convergent palmate reticulate venation. All the main veins meet at the tip of the leaf. Example is the ziziphus or colitis. We also have divergent palmate reticulate venation, and the main veins spread out into different lobes of the leaf. Example is the passion flower and cotton. So imagine a hand with fingers spreading out, and each finger is a lobe with its own vein. Now let's talk about the second type of venation, the parallel venation. In parallel venation, the veins run side by side without forming a network, unlike serraticulate. This is a common in monocot plants like grass and rice. Think of it as a resembling railway tracks or straight highway lanes. So, sa parallel venation, meron din siyang two types just like sa reticulate venation. The pinnate parallel venation and the palmate parallel venation. Sa pinnate parallel venation, there's one main vein in the center with smaller parallel veins running towards the edges of the leaf. For example is the banana leaves. Imagine an airport runway with a long straight line in the center and smaller lines on the sides. So sa palmate parallel venation naman, gaya sa reticulate, meron din siyang dalawa, the convergent and divergent. In palmate parallel venation, multiple main veins run parallel from the base of the leaf. This is further divided into two, as I have said, the convergent and the divergent. So convergent, all the veins come together at the tip of the leaf. Example is the rice leaves. And the second one, the divergent palmate parallel venation, the main veins spread out into separate lobes. For example is the fan palms like borassus. Think of a fan with blades spreading out from the center. So, if you take a closer look at the leaves around you, there's a lot of leaves, diba, around us. You'll notice these patterns. For example, a banana leaf, that's an example of monocot. It has parallel venation. You'll see the veins running side by side. And mango leaf, the dicot, it has reticulate venation naman with a web-like pattern of veins. So, basically, in conclusion, reticulate and parallel venation refer to the pattern of veins found in leaves. In reticulate venation, the veins form a network-like or web-like structure commonly seen in dicot plants like mango and guava leaves. This can be pinnate, where a single midrim runs through the center and smaller veins branch out from it, just like mango leaf, or palmate, where several main veins radiate from a common point, like fingers spreading out, for example, is grape. On the other hand, we have parallel venation has veins running parallel to each other from the base to the tip of the leaf, typically of monocot plants like grass and maize. Parallel venation can also be pinnate, just like the reticulate, where there is one prominent midrib with parallel veins on either side, just like banana leaf, or palmate, where multiple veins start from a single point and run parallel without a midrib. Example naman dito is fan palm leaf. The main difference lies in the vein arrangement and the types of plants they are found in, with reticulate being common in dicots and parallel in monocots.
Once again, good day everyone. I am Charla Nabidin here again to further discuss leaves. their types, modifications, and functions. Now that Miss Andrai has introduced to you the leaves and their parts, I hope you listen to her discussion for you to know what we will be discussing here and for you to not get confused about the different types of leaves. Moving on, when looking around, one could notice that different plants' leaves don't all have the same shape or look. Iba-iba ang mga mukha ng mga dahon na nakikita natin around us. How the leaves of guava look is different from how the banana leaves look. These variations in leaves can be found in their size. Yung iba maliliit, meron namang tama lang, at ang iba talaga ay namang pagkalaki-laki. They also have differences when it comes to their shape. Some are shaped like a feather, iba ay buo talaga siya na parang paypay. Some look like they have fingers. And also difference nila sa arrangement on the stem as well as in the leaves of flowering and non-flowering plants and other physical characteristics. Actually, no, if you notice, may differences nga sila sa arrangement and we will discuss that later. Some leaves are smaller or have water storage capabilities that help them thrive and withstand in hot, dry regions. So in order to absorb as much light as possible in a shaded area, certain leaves naman grow exceptionally broad blades. Some leaves have blades that are divided into 3 or more halves. Since immobile nga sila, they need to have structure that could help them survive their environment. Thus, leaves fall into two major categories, the simple leaf and the compound leaf. Ang compound leaves are further divided into several groupings. First, no, let us discuss the simple leaf. As the name implies, a simple leaf is one that has a single blade or lamina on its petiole, which is the tiny stalk the leaf is linked to. To put it simply, it is when a petiole connects a single lamina to the main stem. From the word na simple, madali na lang itong tandaan kasi hindi naman complex ang structure niya. Here, the leaf is joined to a stem by a petiole with no subdivision sa lamina niya. The true leaf is attached directly to the tree bud. Take a look at the examples here. They are all the same in the sense that the leaves of guava, banana, and mango have a single blade or lamina na connected doon sa petiole o yun ngang maliit na stalk bago yung dahon. Next, we have the compound leaf. In contrast to a simple leaf, ang compound leaf naman has a stalk and is made up of numerous tiny pieces that are connected to the midvein. These tiny pieces are referred to as leaflets. There is a leaf composed of 2 or more leaflets emerges from the same petal. We can already spot the difference here sa word pa lang na leaflets. Ang compound leaf sa isang petiole, mayroon siyang 2 or more na dahon, unlike sa sa simple leaf that only consists of 1 leaf blade. Here, the depression is deep such that it splits the leaf blades into leaflets. In other words, there is a complete division of the leaf blade or the lamina along with the midvein. Take a look at the pictures. In the simple leaf, divided ang leaf blade niya or lamina. Whereas sa compound leaf, may leaflets siya, sort of parang nagkaroon ng division sa leaf blade. Examples of compound leaves are palm, neem, and clover leaves. Kita naman how different they are compared to simple leaves. The compound leaves are further subdivided into the following types of leaves: the palmately compound leaf and the pinnately compound leaf. So when we say palmately compound leaf, the leaflets are attached at a common point, that is at the tip of the petiole. So yung petiole daw, sa dulo niya, hindi lang isang leaf ang makikita natin doon. Halimbawa ay ang Ohio buckeye na nakikita nyo ngayon sa screen. If you would count its leaflets, it has 5 leaflets in a single petiole. The palmately compound leaf can be differentiated into 5 different types. This is very easy to understand and remember since their names consist of prefixes, which gives us the impression of how different each of them is from one another. First, we have the unifoliate. From the prefix uni, which means one, this type of leaf has only 1 leaflet. An example of this is the citrus. As you can see in the picture, may petiole siya pero may mga leaflets na tig-iisa ang dahon. Next, the bifoliate. As you may have noticed, nagkakaiba lang ang mga type ng palmately compound leaf sa number of leaflets. So when we say bifoliate from the prefix bi, the type of palmately compound leaf has 2 leaflets. Halimbawa, balinetes. Next, the trifoliate. These leaves have 3 leaflets emerging from the same point, like oxalis. Next, quadrifoliate. These leaves have 4 leaflets arising from the same point. Example, Marsilea. Multifoliate. This type of leaf has many leaflets arising at a common point. Example, bombax. Just remember that this is about the number of leaflets it has in a single petal. We have here another type of compound leaf, the pinnately compound leaf. In a pinnately compound leaf, the midrib of the leaf is divided into numerous leaflets, all connected by a common axis. In other words, leaflets arranged or presents on both sides of a common rachis or yung axis sa gitna. To easily identify this, just think about feathers since the same ang structure or appearance niya na may balahibo sa magkabilaang side. Kung si palmately compound ay nasa tip ang leaflets, si pinnately compound naman ay along sa petiole, meaning yung kahabaan ng petiole ay may mga leaflets, hindi lang sa tip o dulo niya. Ang common example nito, which is siguro lahat naman tayo ay nakakakita or nakakita na, kasi kung wala pa nasa harap lang ito ng cast faculty, is the leaves of a neem tree. Pinnately compound leaves can be further differentiated into different types, and please note that the difference among these types lies in the number of leaflets present along the midvein and also in their axes. First, we have here the unipinnate, the leaf with leaflets on each side of the axis. Diyan sa picture ng kasha, we can see that along the axis may mga tig-iisang leaf sa magkabilaang side. Next, we have the bipinnate. Here, a secondary axis bearing the leaflet is produced by the central axis. Binnately compound or double compound leaves are twice divided. The leaflets are arranged along a secondary vein, which is one of several veins branching off the middle vein. Each leaflet is called a pinule. The pinnules on one secondary vein are called pinna. Example, acacia. Next, the tripinnate. Here, a tertiary axis bearing leaflets emerges from the secondary axis. For example, yung moringa or malunggay. Di ba ang petiole niya along the central axis, may secondary axis siya, nag-branch doon. So, sa secondary axis na yun, may nag-branch ulit na another axis. Doon sa axis na yun ang leaflets. Kung sa bipinnate ay may secondary axis or veins lang, dito naman sa tripinnate may tatlo. Next, we have the decompound. So, if sobrang dami na ng pinnate niya, say we have more than 3 pinnates, it is already called decompound. Example, all leaves of coriander. Next, the parapinnate, a leaf without a terminal leaflet or yung dahon na nasa dulo, kaya usually tinatawag din siyang even pinnate. Kapag even ang leaflets, parapinnate siya tulad ng example natin kanina sa unipinnate na kasha. Next, we have the imparapinnate, leaf with an odd terminal leaflets. Ito siya, since may terminal leaflet siya, add ang number ng dahon niya, halimbawa dahon ng rose. Now that we are done discussing the types of leaves, let us discuss how leaves are arranged along a stem. That is what I was talking about a while ago. There exists a term called phyllotoxy, meaning the pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem. Leaves are arranged along a stem in many major ways. Here are the 3 different forms of phyllotoxy seen in plants. We have the alternate, opposite, and whorled. Sa alternate, it is when only a single leaf develops at each node alternatively. As you can see from the example ng China rose, hindi pantay ang arrangement ng leaves, kaya siya alternate. Next, the opposite. It is when leaves and buds are directly across from each other on a stem. If pantay naman sa magkabilaang side ang leaves, opposite siya. For example, yung guava leaves. Next, we have the whorled. When 3 or more leaves and buds are attached at a node to form a whorl of leaves. From the word na whorled or spiral, ito sila yung leaves na naka-arrange in a ring around a stem or stalk, with at least 3 leaves emerging from a single petiole. For example, Alstonia. It is common knowledge that leaves are specialized to perform photosynthesis. Yan ang pinaka-common na function ng leaves na alam natin. Sila ang nagko-convert ng sunlight into chemical energy na ginagamit nila. Pero actually, there is more to leaves than just being the processor of photosynthesis. When a plant evolves and adapts to a certain environment, the structure and function of a leaf can be modified. So, ito ang tinatawag natin na leaf modification or modification of leaves. From the word na modification, may pagbabago o binago. So, leaves, for example, aside from photosynthesis, also perform important roles in support, food, storage, defense, and other functions. Each of these functions has undergone various modification. As a result, when the leaf blade's primary role is no longer photosynthesis, some other plant part is typically modified to take its place. So the following are some of the leaf modification listed on the BYJUS website. First, we have the storage leaves. These leaves are modified so that the plant can store nutrients and or water. Plants in the Crassulaceae family and xerophytic plants, for example, have succulent thick leaves that retain water in their tissues. Let's go back to what we discussed about vacuoles. We learned that plants do have large vacuoles kasi doon nila iniimbak yung water na nakukuha nila. So here's sa mga plant na tulad ng nasa picture, they have large vacuoles filled with hydrophilic colloid in the parenchyma 2 cells. The purpose kung bakit nagkakaroon ng ganitong modification ay para maiwasan ng plants na ma-dehydrate, ma-dry, or kulangin sa tubig. According to Cronquist and Stevens, the most known type of storage leaves are the succulent leaf bases of underground bulbs such as sa tulips and crocus, which can be used as either food or water storage organs or both. Another example na familiar tayo ay ang aloe vera. When you cut or make bali the aloe vera, makikita mo roon yung gel-like structure na lalabas doon. Next naman is the leaf tendrils or tendrils. Plants with weak stems have leaf tendrils. The leaves undergo modification to form tendrils which resemble threads. As you can see here in the picture, ang tendrils ay yung parang swirl or coil na nasa leaf nodes. Usually, makikita ito sa mga creeper plants or plants that do crawl in the ground, since sila yung may weak na mga parts. Since weak nga sila, these leaves have been modified for clumping or support. Kung mapansin nyo, yung mga creeper plant like cucumber or watermelon, if lagyan mo yan siya ng stick o kahoy, they would climb up there using tendrils. Pero it is important to note that not all plants that crawl have tendrils. The sitaw or yung string beans that crawl and climb but they do not have tendrils as they use their stems or they would instead wrap poles near them. Just remember that tendrils are used by plants to support them and to climb a nearby stick or walls. Tendrils, for instance, are used by cucumbers, watermelon, and peas to mention a few. Next, we have the leaf spines. I think from the word spine and from the picture being presented right now, you already have an idea what a leaf spine is. Some plants have evolved spines, needle-like structures in their leaves. Ito sila yung plants na may mga tinik sa dahon nila. The most common example of this plant is Cactaceae or the family of cactus. Aside from being known as plants in the desert, cactus is also known for having spines or mga tinik. So that is what we call leaf spines. And these leaves are modified as they serve as plants' defense against their prey. As stated here, plant defense is served by these pointed and sharp projections that are generated from leaves. Next, we have the phyllodes. The term phyllodes refers to a flattened petal that takes on the shape of a leaf and turns green. Take a look at the example here of Australian acacia. At first glance, parang lahat ng nakikita natin ay normal na dahon lang siya. Pero actually, parang may bilog na red ay isang petiole leaf stalk na na-modify into flattened and widened petiole that looks like and functions as leaf. According to Broadrib and Hill, Froster and Bonser, during seedling establishment and early growth, Australian acacia produces bipinnately compound true leaves, followed by the development of transitional leaves consisting of flattened petioles or rachises, which is what we call phyllodes, with compound leaves attached. Pero a few weeks to years after seed germination, compound leaves completely disappear and phyllodes become the real adult structures functioning as the primary photosynthetic organs. Important ang phyllodes since they are thought to protect the photosynthetic apparatus from excessive light. Next, we have the plantlets. Many plants called plantlets develop on the main plant before falling off and becoming new plants. I actually have experience with these plant leaves. One time, I stumbled upon a plant called kalancho, which is yung nasa picture. Tapos natatanggal kasi yung parang maliliit na nakadikit sa leaves niya. Ang ginawa ko, kinuha ko mga maliliit na yan at I just put it sa lupa. After how many weeks, I noticed na tumubo yun siya. So that's how plantlets work. In this example, mitosis at meristems along the leaf margins results in tiny plantlets that fall off and develop into complete plants on their own. This type of reproduction is asexual. Next is the insectivorous leaves. Certain types of leaves, like carnivorous plants, need nitrogen to grow. Since masyadong low or mababa ang nitrogen content ng soil kung saan ang plants na iyon, need nila mag-evolve into something that would actually help them provide for the lack of nitrogen that get for them to survive in that nutrient-poor environment. Thus, the leaves of these plants have been modified to function as traps in order to catch and consume insects. Hindi siya designed tulad ng nasa picture kasi gusto lang nilang pumatay ng insects, but that's because that's how they aid their need to have what they lack. Tulad ng fertilizer, they use insect-capturing leaves as an additional supply of much-needed nitrogen, even though they still use photosynthesis to obtain energy and make sugars, making them autotrophs. Here are some examples that may be familiar to you. First, the cobra lily or Dalingtonia, which looks like a cobra. Diyan sa nectar or sa may tangnya, may butas dyan, which the insects were lured to enter. If pumasok doon at mamali siya ng direksyon at napunta dyan sa tube, mahirapan nang lumabas ang insect since may downward pointing hair siya na nagiging dahilan para completely matrap ang insect. Inside this plant, may gel-like na fluid doon at may mga bacteria, which would be the one that would do the digestion. Meaning, nagre-rely si cobra lily sa bacteria na iyon for nutrients galing sa pagkakadigest ng insects, hindi siya ang mismong nagdadigest doon sa insects. We also have here pitcher plants like Nepenthes and Cephalotus, and the best known, the Venus flytrap or Dionea. Itong Venus flytrap naman, once may dumapo na insect dyan sa open trap, agad-agad siyang magko-close. Mahirap na makalabas ang insect since the more they persist in escaping, the more they will be trapped inside. After a few hours, maglalock ang parang spikes niya. Tapos once the insect is trapped, the leaf releases enzymes or digestive juices. These juices break down the insect into nutrients. The leaf absorbs the nutrients and transports them to all parts of the plants. This process takes about 10 days, then the leaf reopen. Thus, in such plants, the insectivorous leaves are modified to catch and digest insects. Leaves exist to perform functions that are vital to the overall existence of plants. The following are the functions of leaves. First, we have the photosynthesis. The plant's leaves, which are known as the food factory of the plant, are what produce food through the process of photosynthesis. The leaves produce glucose in this process by converting carbon dioxide, water, and UV light. The leaves contain chloroplast, which is filled with a green pigment called chlorophyll. This chlorophyll is then employed by leaves to create food by transforming sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide energy into chemical energy that the plant can consume. In this process, the leaves take in carbon dioxide from the surroundings and release oxygen into the atmosphere. Next, we have the transpiration, the process by which plants release extra water into the atmosphere. This is what we call transpiration. Despite using some of the water for food production, plants continuously receive water from the soil through their roots, which causes excess water to evaporate from the leaf surface through stomata. With the opening of stomata present in the leaves, this process occurs. Transpiration helps in the conduction of water and minerals to different parts of the plants. Due to the continuous elimination of water from the plant body, there is a balance of water maintained within the plant. It maintains osmosis and keeps the cells rigid. However, excessive transpiration can be extremely injurious to a plant. When water loss exceeds water intake, it can retard the plant's growth and ultimately lead to death by dehydration. Next, the guttation. Guttation occurs when the stomata are closed, removing extra water from the xylem near the leaf margins. Under the condition where the soil is flooded with rainwater and humidity is high in the atmosphere, the plant's root system absorbs excess water. As a result, hydrostatic pressure develops in the roots that force the water upwards. Hence, the water involving other soluble cell components is forced out of the xylem present in the epitheme tissue. Guttation is different from transpiration as it only occurs during the nighttime. The process takes place through hydatodes. Water is lost as a liquid, unlike in transpiration where it evaporates in the atmosphere. Next, we have storage. Photosynthesis occurs in leaves. They thereby store nutrients and water. In particular, the thick and succulent leaves are adapted to store water. Just like what we've discussed, they also act as storage that the plants need. Next, we have the defense. Some leaves have been modified to become spines in order to prevent harm or animal consumption. An example of this is the plant Opuntia. So before I end my presentation, let me just recapitulate whatever we have discussed. Leaves have two types, simple leaves and compound leaves. The compound leaves are further differentiated into palmately compound leaves, which also have types of unifoliate, bifoliate, trifoliate, quadrifoliate, and multifoliate. And palmately compound leaves, which are further divided into unipinnate, bipinnate, tripinnate, decompound, parapinnate, and imparapinnate. Phyllotaxy, or the arrangement of leaves, are alternate, opposite and swirl or whorled. Leaves can be modified, and among these modifications are the following: storage leaves, leaf tendrils, leaf spines, phyllodes, plantlets, and insectivorous leaves. Aside from photosynthesis, leaves also have the following functions: transpiration, guttation, storage, and defense. So that's for my part. Let us hear by Monshanga for her discussion of flowers. Thank you.
Good day everyone. I am Bay Munshanga and we will discuss the plant organs and processes. What are flowers and their types? Flowers are introduced as the reproductive part of a plant. They are not only involved in reproduction but are also a source of food for other living organisms. A flower is a typical structure that includes four parts: the calyx, sepals, the corolla, petals, and adrecium, stamen, and gynecium, the pistil, and the pedicels. A complete flower consists of two different parts, the vegetative part and the reproductive part. But first, we'll discuss the vegetative part. So we have calyx. The calyx is the outermost part of a flower. It comprises sepals and reticles, the tiny leaves present at the base of a flower, and is part of a flower stalk. The green-colored part beneath the petals is to protect the developing flower bud. It acts as a protective shield, safeguarding the bud from harsh environmental conditions such as heat, wind, and radiation, as well from predation by insects and herbivores. Kapag namumulaklak na yung flowers, the calyx provides structural support. It helps to hold the petals and other parts of the flower. So let's proceed to corolla. Corolla is the second part of the plant. It comprises petals. It has two functions. Number one, to attract pollinators such as bees, animals, and etc. Number two, to protect the reproductive organs of a flower. The corolla is often brightly colored na nagsisilbing pang-akit sa mga pollinators tulad ng bees, butterflies, and birds. The colors and the pattern can guide pollinators to the nectar and pollen. Nectar is a sweet, viscous liquid produced by plant, and the pollen is a powdery substance produced by the male structures of seeds plants. So yung part ng calyx is nasa baba, yung green colored, yung sepal, and then receptacle. And then yung corolla naman is yung nasa taas, ang part niya is si petal. So let's proceed to reproductive parts of a flower. The stamens. The male reproductive part of the flower. Stamen is the third part of a flower. It is also known as the adrecium. It comprises a filament and anthers. Anthers. An anther is a circular, yellowish, sac-like structure in the middle of petals. This is the top part of the stamen where pollen is produced, which carry the male gametes, the sperm cells, necessary for fertilization. Filaments. The filament is a slender, thread-like structure with anthers on the top. The filament is the stalk that supports the anthers. Positioning it is so that pollinators or the wind can effectively transfer pollen to the pistil of the same or another flower. So yung stamen is yung nasa gilid. Ang part niya is yung si anther and filament. Si anther is yung nasa top ni filament na kulay yellow. And then si filament naman is yung nag-support kay anther.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day everyone. My name is Nurhaya M. Talib and today we will discussing about carpels or pestle. The carpel is the fourth part of flower. It is present in the center of the flower, while the pestle is the innermost part of the flower. It is also known as the female reproductive organ of a flower. It is comprises three parts. Carpels are the female reproductive part of flower and can be found singly or in the groups. The stigma, ovary, and style make up carpels, while pistil are union of one more carpels. Carpels create egg cells, whereas the pistil does not produce egg cells. The three parts of carpels and pistil are stigma. The stigma on flower is the topmost vertical part of gynecium, which serve as receptive tip. The second one is ovary. Ovary is a ductless reproductive gland to hold numerous ovules or eggs. It helps in seed formation. And the last one is style. Style is a long narrow stalk that connects the stigma and to the ovary. So, I will show you where is stigma, ovary, ovule, and the style. So, here's the example. The female elements are collectively called the pistil. The top of the pistil is called the stigma, which is a sticky surface receptive to pollen. The bottom of pistil contains the ovary. The ovary produces the female gametes within the ovules. It will later develop into the fruit. This ovary finds this ovule. The ovule contains the female gametes. It will later develop into a seed. As you can see, there is a sixth ovule in this diagram. It within contains the female gametes. It will later develop into the seed. The ovary and narrow region in between is called style. These long structures are called style. The style is support stigma, connects the stigma to the ovary. The style leads the ovary that contains the female egg cells, called ovules. For overall, this is carpels, the female parts. If there's a male parts, there's also female parts in flower. And that's for my presentation. I hope you learned something. Thank you.